Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters by Anfield Index. It's a perfect start, even if it wasn't a perfect performance for the Reds. What a day it was, what an evening it was. The early hours of the morning, all sorts was breaking. And what could happen before 7 p.m. tonight? And we'll get into it, ladies and gents. I am, of course, ecstatic to be joined by the renowned and the respected David Lynch. And David, just before we get into the game, because I do want to talk about that first of all, the transfer window, because I know it's coming to an end, but this is actually shaping up to be a tasty deadline day, because they've been a bit naff really recently, haven't they?
Yeah, and not just Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool have got a couple of big deals in the pipeline that they'll hope to confirm today. But yeah, other clubs really busy as well, and I'm not really sure why that is. I mean, sometimes it's just kind of luck and the way things work out. And I think what it is maybe with this window has kind of been a lot of clubs relying on other clubs for dominoes to fall, and nobody wants to blink early, and so it's just everybody's been utilising that time pressure to put pressure on other clubs, and so they eventually will accept a fee. So it's just kind of worked out to one of those where deadline day is going to be really interesting. And yeah, like I say, from a Liverpool perspective, absolutely going to be very interesting. So loads to get into over the next few hours.
Yeah, plenty to get stuck into. But we have to go back to yesterday. And it wasn't a classic, this, by any means. But as they say, a moment of magic, and the result is all that matters, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a pretty miserable game. I mean, first half in particular, just a combination of things, really. I thought Arsenal's approach is just... It's just very Arsenal under Mikel Arteta, isn't it? Almost kind of cowardly, really. And I'm just, not a fan of that, really. And, Liverpool partly to blame as well for getting kind of dragged down to their level, not being brave enough themselves at times and being too cautious and allowing Arsenal to constantly get back into shape. But what I thought, in the end is that Liverpool were, they did start to push more in the second half, and they were the side that were being brave, and that didn't kind of end up in lots of shots being taken or anything, but they were definitely trying more to go and win the game outside of just trying to win it from a set piece, which was 100% what Arsenal were trying to do. I mean, the irony is, of course, that Liverpool do win it from a set piece and then in the end, and the sole bit of unbelievable quality we saw on the day. But I thought Liverpool are the ones who were pushing more to win it, and so I felt like a deserved win on that front. And look, when you find yourself in a game like that where it's just a bit of a war of attrition, and you're up against a side who do not want to play and they've turned up to try and nick it on a set piece, then it's all about, can you get out of it somehow with the 3 points? Can you just find that one moment of magic? And God, what a moment of magic it was. Absolutely unbelievable.
It was unbelievable. And I do want to talk about the two teams, because we were obviously both there, and you could just hear it in the cop yesterday at half-time. There's a little bit like someone actually shouted, is there a danger of a football match actually breaking out? Because it was pretty poor, to be honest, like so attritional both sides. But does it almost train back to, there was a moment where Liverpool just went, we're going for this, and Arsenal just never really tried to win it, or they're playing for a draw, maybe we'll nick a set piece.
Yeah, that's it. I just think you could see, I think in the first half, Liverpool themselves quite cautious and just had, they were kind of, they saw how little risk Arsenal were taking and thought, well, if we open up a bit here, then it's going to hurt us. You give them a chance to maybe get Madueke away on the break or whatever. So Liverpool kind of, as I say, were kind of dragged down to that level. But as the game went on and the second half started, you immediately kind of saw Liverpool taking a bit more risk, showing a bit more endeavour. And you could argue, Arsenal missing a couple of decent players and, they're away from home as well. But that's the main criticism of Arteta, isn't it? Is that he just doesn't have it in him to go for it, in a moment where Liverpool... And Liverpool have been ropey at times at the start of this season. Yeah. I came into this game thinking kind of a draw was the best Liverpool could get, because I thought, I'm not massively convinced by how they've played. There's this turnover. It's going to take them a while to get going. But Arsenal don't think like that. They just think, protect, and maybe we'll nick it from a corner, and taking ages over set pieces, just hoping that one would fall for them from a corner. It's just pretty miserable, isn't it? And I just think, like I say, I felt like a good chance for Arsenal to beat them yesterday. And yet, first half, so cautious, come out in the second half and do exactly the same. And Liverpool just up it that little bit, and that kind of decides the game in the end, because you get players coming on trying to get in behind them. They win a free kick through a bit of kind of fast play, and Liverpool were doing a lot more of that in the second half. And then obviously that free kick gets banged in, and you can't mitigate for that if you're Arsenal. But Liverpool were trying to make those situations happen, and Arsenal really weren't. So, you get kind of dragged into narrative around these, but it really did kind of feel like that. And I thought Liverpool, deserved to win it for showing a bit more adventure than Arsenal did. And for Arsenal, to have not even got a point out of it, despite playing in that way, that's got to be a really difficult one for them. And, the worry for them as well is that Liverpool are already got a little lead on them. They're going to get better. Yeah. As the season progresses, they're making signings today that will make them even better as well. So it's, a bit of a nightmare for Arsenal, really.
Yeah, it really wasn't a good day. And it's funny that Arteta was talking after the game, and Raya, I couldn't think of his name then, the keeper was talking about the ball and the Puma ball moving. I mean, as much as we're going to talk about Dominic Szoboszlai's free kick, is Dominic Szoboszlai now the best right-back at Liverpool?
He's an unbelievable player. I feel like I've kind of spent quite a bit of time defending him, really, over the past couple of seasons. But I don't know why he seems like one of those players who kind of gets taken against sometimes on social media. But for me, I just think since day one at Liverpool, and he's had some poor games for, absolutely. I think he wasn't great maybe in the Community Shield most recently, but I just think he's such a good player. I think technically he's got absolutely everything you need. And then he just works his socks off completely as a guarantee in every game. And I mean, if you've got those two ingredients, technical brilliance and the work rate, then that's everything to be a superb footballer for Liverpool, and he is that for me. And shown these last couple of games versatility as well. The ability to play right back, and you're kind of wondering now. He's undroppable, so does he have a little stint at right back for a while? Is that something you can do with him? He seems happy there. He inverts. He comes into central midfield a lot. He gives you progression from deep. He's a good defender as well. I thought he did a really good job in those terms in the last couple of games as well. So, just got a lot of love for Dominic Szoboszlai. I think he's a phenomenal player for Liverpool. And again, absolutely man of the match from right back again. And that's not just because of the goal. I was having a conversation during the game before he'd scored the goal with Matt Ladson next to me, where we said that he'd been the man of the match so far. And so to top it off with a goal of that quality, he absolutely is deserving of that award.
Yeah, he pinged a few beautiful ones from right back all the way across the pitch a couple of times that settled off. Just brilliant the last few games. And the only one I could think that really rivals in the last few games, the skipper was needed again, and he was brilliant again yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And I mean, that's the thing, is that, with the way that Arsenal were playing, looking for set pieces, and certainly after the goal, it goes 1-0 as well. There's another 7 minutes added on top. So there's another quarter of an hour of the game left. And Arsenal just start to go full on Stoke at that point, don't they? Just hitting big diags, trying. And I thought in that period of the game in particular, but all the way through, we get, up against the set pieces, Van Dijk was just imperious. And I mean, you think about all the quality he gives you on the ball, the fact that, in 1v1s he's so good, and, when someone's running at him, he never looks flustered, and he always kind of wins those. But just the kind of meat and potatoes elements of defending, big balls into the box, he just wins everything. And he did yesterday in a couple where, you get a bit nervous when it starts to come in, and he's the man who gets up highest and wins them. He's just absolutely world class. And I actually saw some Arsenal fans, and the online element of their fan base can be a little crazy at times, but I saw some Arsenal fans after yesterday's game kind of posting about, wow, how good is this guy? So if he's getting recognition from them, that tells you how good he is. And, I genuinely think, I think other fans are now coming round to the possibility that this is the greatest centre-half we've ever seen. And I think Liverpool fans have known that for a long time, but he just is. And he's still holding those high standards, even though he's getting a little bit older now, but he was well worth that contract on the evidence the first few games of this season.
100%. He fizzed a few balls into like the midfield and the front men at times, which were absolutely brilliant. He just has been brilliant these last few games all season so far. If you're a defender and your surname starts with K, it's maybe not been the best start this season, but I thought Konate had a good game, and Milos Kerkez, it was interesting. I've seen the online narrative that Madueke beat. I thought he shackled Madueke well yesterday.
Yeah, I thought Madueke was definitely Arsenal's biggest threat, but that's a kind of compliment to Kerkez because he dealt with him pretty much all the way through the game. And for me, I think we spoke about this actually after Newcastle. I thought he played really well against Newcastle, but he was absolutely to blame for the concession of that goal where Bruno gets over him. What we saw in this one was that same performance for me, but without the goal on top. And so pretty perfect performance at fullback. I mean, he just wins duels, which is, quite important when you've got someone running at you all the time. And he did that consistently, used the ball well. And I just think he's settling down a bit now. He maybe looked a bit nervous in his first couple of games for Liverpool, but he's settling down now. And he dealt with Arsenal's biggest threat for me yesterday and did a really good job of that. So, again, he's still young, he's going to get better, but I think he's had a good start to his Liverpool career. A little bit of nerves early on, but he's settling down now, and that was his best performance yesterday. And, if Szoboszlai hadn't been as good as he was, then Kerkez would have been right up there for man of the match, I think. So, both fullbacks really impressive yesterday, and even more to come from this kid. He just looks like a really, really smart signing.
Yeah, so many good performances from defensive players, no two ways about it. And yet, despite coming on after the 60th minute, there's a shout for Curtis Jones being man of the match. I do think his introduction changed it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think McAllister had his best game, and he was part of the reason Liverpool were a little bit sloppy, to be honest, in that first half in particular. And again, he's a bit of fitness issues at the moment, isn't he? He's kind of working his way through that. So and he's phenomenal, McAllister. So will not go over the top on criticism, but you noticed an immediate difference when Curtis Jones came on, and you could see the manager said to him, "Just inject some tempo for us, just speed us up a little bit." And he did that with the ball. He was urgency he was putting into it, fizzing his passes into players, finding Wirtz in a way that others had really struggled to, I think, up to that point, putting him into dangerous areas, and then off the ball as well. A few times he's chasing down defenders, chasing down the goalkeeper, speeding Arsenal up, so that the game could be played at Liverpool's pace, which was a quicker pace. And that is when Liverpool started to unsettle Arsenal a little bit. And yeah, Curtis Jones, I mean, another one, has his knockers for some reason. And I just think he's an absolutely brilliant player for Liverpool. And again, he comes on and he changes that game. And, the fact that it's him that gets the other side of Zubimendi to win the free kick that wins the game said everything, because he was the one who was getting into those positions. He was the one who was showing the urgency. He was the one who was beating his man. And he's just a really important member of the squad here. And I think, I think sometimes people do him down a little bit because he's local almost. And it's like, oh, well, maybe that's why he's around, but it's not. It's because he's good enough. And I thought he was absolutely fantastic yesterday. And I totally agree with you that he was the one who kind of changed it in Liverpool's favour.
Yeah, really was a brilliant performance for him. And I suppose the only negatives, who came off, because we're a bit unsure, and Arne Slot talked around cramp, but he's talked around cramp previously and it's been worse. And you think of Konate's injury record and Wirtz, obviously the first injury is a bit like Frimpong and what happened there. Are we just, I suppose there's no news on that, we're just awaiting the scan updates?
Yeah, I suppose you've got to kind of take Slot's word for it that he felt that both had cramp maybe, so hopefully that's the case. I mean, Konate looked like he was kind of holding around his knee, so hopefully that's nothing and it is just cramp and he's just being felt a bit strange or whatever. So it was the right decision to take him off. And Wirtz, I mean, that must have been some cramp, by the way, because he could barely walk off the pitch, couldn't he? So we know, he had physical data was briefly available on FOTMob over the first couple of the games of the season, and now it's for some reason disappeared. But Wirtz is up there. He was up there in those early games in terms of distance covered, so he does get about the pitch a bit. And so, maybe to do so at this intensity of the Premier League level, he's just feeling that a little bit. So, yeah, hopefully on both, nothing more serious than it looks. And we'll find out, I guess, when they, if there's a pull out of the international squads or whatever. But yeah, Arne Slot seemed pretty relaxed about it in his press conference. So that, you hope for good news on both of them.
fingers crossed on that one then, or both of them definitely. And I suppose with this, the overall sentiment for the game is we've looked at this season and we thought Liverpool have seemed a bit open, almost 17, 18 Liverpool. They're going to have to score goals a lot. But this was just different yesterday, wasn't it? This was them showing like, listen, we're still here as champions. We can keep clean sheets as well.
Yeah, exactly. Great to see them kind of come out on top in that early battle of kind of, it feels like it kind of proves a point, doesn't it, about, we are the champions, we're here to do it again. Particularly as, Arsenal were kind of getting talked up a bit on the base of their first two performances, but I thought they were very poor against Manchester United. They gave up kind of like 20 shots or something.
Yeah.
Obviously better against Leeds, but Leeds, how easy are they going to find it in this league? And it's Leeds were away from home, and so I thought it was a poor performance from Leeds. And so, coming into this, I fancied a draw myself because I'd seen how Liverpool had played. But, I think there was an expectation Arsenal were going to come and they were going to be the ones to make the statement. And instead, you got a statement from Liverpool, which is that, okay, we're not quite at our best yet, but we are the defending champions for a reason because we've got unbelievable quality and we will match you for work rate as well. And like I say, to come out of that with a win, it's just phenomenal, really. And to come out of these first three, such a tough first three on paper, with 3 wins from 3, maybe a couple more signings to come in the door today and big signings as well. It's just, I can't imagine, if these deals get over the line today, will the mood have ever been better around Liverpool Football Club? It's going to be, the optimism at the very start of a new season can't have been much higher. So, just an incredible job to come through these with 3 wins. And I think there's even more to come from this side, which is if you're Arsenal, if you're Man City, that should be pretty frightening, I think.